Okay, so ZBrush in 45 minutes. Let's get to it. No, we won't be doing Anti-Venom in 45 minutes. No. Okay, but we will be learning the UI. We'll be learning custom UI, brushes. We're going through all of that. We'll be going through custom UI down here as well, how to set that up, what tools are, what the subtools are, what do they do, how to use them. We will be making some of these tools, so this cool looking mallet, like a Minecraft mallet, not too bad. We'll be using ZSpheres, and eventually we're making this guy. So when you get started, you should be greeted with this home page. Just exit that and then hide this. This is your lightbox. You can find it over here, not here, over here under lightbox. And I'm just going to go to preferences, config, and then restore standard UI. This is what you should have. I just did that for myself, so we're on the same page. If you try and draw, you're going to see this. You can press Ctrl Z to get rid of it. Okay, again, if you do that, you can also press Ctrl N. I'm going to go to document and I'm going to uncheck this pro. It's kind of like a chain link. I'm going to set the resolution, okay, because I don't like that square. I want a 1920. You can choose a resolution you wish, but 1920, 1080, that's a good resize. It's going to ask you, you just click yes, and you can zoom in and out just in case the resolution didn't really match up. You can hold control and then hover over any button in ZBrush and they'll give you an explanation of what it does. So here I want control 0 and 0, control 0 and 0, and this is just to get the size back to where it is in case you might have messed that up. So if we bring our attention to the side here, I want to click on sphere and then click and drag, right click or left click. And if you click and drag too many times, don't worry about it. Don't panic. Just come up here to edit, click edit, and now we can edit this. We're going to press Ctrl N and that'll give you one sphere to work with. Okay, this is what we want. If you don't know how, I'm just going to do that again. I'm just going to do this to switch, and then I'm just going to just click and drag. And if you do this, you've got too many, go to edit or press T, which is a shortcut. Press N, Control N, and that will give you the sphere. Okay, I'm just trying to navigate here on the top right. You can click green for top and bottom, red for left and right, and blue for front and back. It's just some easy navigation. Obviously it's a sphere, so you can't see what's going on. I'm just going to press B and M to get the move brush, and I'm going to hold down, and you see nothing happens, so I'm going to go over here to make polymesh 3D, and that means we can work on it. And if for some reason you don't have a sphere, if you couldn't get one over there, I just want you to go to Tool, Append, and then click on a sphere, Sphere 3D. After you've done that, you can select it by clicking on it like this. Okay, and you now have a sphere. Okay, I'm just going to delete mine because I don't need this one. I just want one. I'm going to press X to get symmetry, so what you do on the left happens on the right. And I'm just alt clicking and dragging, okay? And you don't have to worry too much about this. We're going to go through it in detail, the brushes, okay? I'm just showing you, you can just left click on this guy to move him for navigation. You can left click and drag or right click on the silhouette viewer here and then change the texture if you want, but that's unnecessary, so we're going to right click and get rid of that. So again, movement, okay, how do you move in ZBrush? If you hold on Control and then right click and drag, you can zoom in and out. If you hold Control and left click, you will mask something, okay? That means you can only work on the unmasked area, okay? If you click and drag out, it'll clear the mask, and if you just click it, it'll invert the mask. So again, we're holding Control, right click and dragging. And here I'm just right click and dragging, I'm not holding anything to rotate, okay? Right click and drag or left click and drag. If you left click and drag on the object, you will use the active brush, which is the move brush, okay? So that's just the difference. You want to rotate using your right click. If you rotate and then, so I'm just rotating and then I'm holding shift, okay, and that's going to snap it into place. Rotate and then hold shift and it'll snap into place. Here I'm holding alt and right clicking and dragging, and that'll just pan. Again, I'm just showing you back and forth, left and right, up and down. If you hold shift, right click, let go of shift, and then just drag your right click, it'll rotate. Not something I use very often, but I should definitely start using it, and it's something you guys should start to use because I'm so used to tumbling, or just rotating in general. So here I'm pressing Control S, to save the project. This is a ZPR, a ZBrush project. We're going to go through that a little bit later, what that is. But there's projects and tools, okay? So I'm saving it as a project, okay? That's how you save it. You can also go up here to save as, and now you're saving it as a ZTL. That is not the same as a project. A tool and a project are two very different things, and we'll go through that a little bit later. So now you don't have to follow along. I'm just sort of showing you brushes and just a sort of a very quick sculpt. This is something you really shouldn't follow along. I'm pressing S to get the size, and I'm right clicking over here, and this will bring up a context menu. You can get the draw size, the focal shift. You can get intensity, which is just how intense the brush is, so how deep it's cutting into it. In this case, just how much it's moving. So I'm alt left clicking and dragging just to get the move. Again, this is just a demonstration. You don't have to follow along. I'm going to go a little bit faster. B, C, and in ZBrush brushes, if a brush starts with the letter C, like clay buildup, you press B for brush and then C for the C brushes, okay? If it's an S brush, you press BS. It's a D brush, BD, so on and so forth. So here I'm just showing you can change the intensity on the top menu there. You can change it by right clicking, okay? Here I'm just holding shift to smooth. That's not a brush you select. The shift button is just the smooth button, okay? Now we're going to get into some actual modeling, a little more refinement. I'm going to click on the cylinder. Don't worry about the star. I'm just going to click on the cylinder. Again, make that a polymesh 3D. That just means to edit it, okay? Here I'm just showing you that you can actually edit it. I'm pressing S for size, left clicking and dragging that to get a size that I want. And don't worry, I'm just moving around just to see what's going on here. You can click on that button and that'll give you the brush menu, or again, easier, B. Okay, I'm going to go to B, M, and then V for move. So each brush has its own unique little key, so B, M, and then whatever. Again, right click for the context menu, or you can use it up here. This is very convenient, very easy, and multiple ways of doing that. Here I'm just holding alt, clicking and dragging, just messing around, holding shift and left click and drag and smooth to smooth it out. And again, just using navigation that we've learned. Okay, if you want to undo something, you can press Control Z or Control Shift Z to undo and redo respectively. You can also go up there and move that undo slider. I'm going to press X to get symmetry. I'm going to shift, click and drag, and that's just going to smooth things out. And then I'm just going to move. And I know I'm working really quickly, but it's just basically the move brush, clicking and dragging. And if you hold shift, you'll get the smooth brush, okay? So here, pressing B, C, and then getting the clay build-up there. I'm holding Alt to push into the object. So whenever you hold Alt with a brush, it gives you the alternate version. So if something pulls out, you're going to push in with Alt. If it pushes in, it'll pull out with Alt. So it's just the opposite. Here, just getting the focal shift down. I'm just showing the intensity. Okay, so that's just intensity with 4, and then here 21. Okay, that's far more intense. So you can change that if you feel that it's too intense. Okay, again, just rotating, nothing too crazy. Okay, and I'm going to go to Geometry and Dynamesh. I'm going to click on the Dynamesh button, and you will see by pressing Shift F to get the polyframe mode, you can actually count the polygons, and they're a lot higher than what we had. This will change the topology. Okay, if I put a higher number, or a lower number, sorry, and then click and drag out, Control, click and drag out, that's how you Dynamesh. You can Control, click and drag out just with that mask tool. Okay, I'm just going to change it up to like a crazy number, like 800, and I just want you to have a look at the polygons here on the top right. I'm just going to show them to you. Right there, it's like 4 million. Okay, that's way too much. And if I press Shift F, you can see that's so much, it almost looks black. Okay, so I'm going to change it down to 80. This is a good number. And I'm just going to work with this. And as you go up with more detail, you can go up with your Dynamesh from 80 to 100 to 200 to 500 to eventually 1000. And again, just clicking and dragging with a clay build-up, BCS, and here this is BMV for the move brush. And just moving, getting some sort of facial structure. Okay, just messing around, not doing anything too much. And again, you can see the polygons stretching there, so I Control clicked out and then that Dynameshed. Okay, so here I'm just moving again with symmetry on, or X, and that's all I'm doing, using the move brush to cut the clay build up and a little bit of Dynamesh. Okay, Shift F just to get an idea of what your polygons look like. Just make sure they're not stretching. BD for Dam Standard. BD, select the Dam Standard or Damien Standard. This cuts into your form, and this is great for wrinkles. Okay, maybe putting in eye sockets. Okay, or eyelids, the wrinkles on your eyelids. That's great for that. So this is just another brush that you'll be using pretty often rather. And here I'm just smoothing out, and we've got some sort of bearded dwarf. Okay. Moving on, let's go to Subtool, and I just want to import, or append rather, anything. You can append anything, doesn't matter. I'm going to select the thing that you appended, the cube in this case. I'm going to press solo, and that's how you can view it like that. Or you can click on these eye icons, or shift click on the eye icon. It'll hide all the tools. The tool you're currently on will never be hidden. So here I'm going to import an OBJ rather, and that replaces the tool that you use. So that's why it's always good to append something and then replace it with that. That's how you import in ZBrush. It's a bit weird, but yeah, that's kind of how it works. And finally, we're going to get into UI configuration now. We've been working with brushes, but pressing B, C, B, S, so on and so forth, it can be a bit tedious. So I just want to show you the document, and we just want to customize the UI. So document, just bring that range slider down to get rid of that gradient. Now select the color, select any color you want from that second box that I showed you. Okay, any color, anything crazy. Go to document and click on back, and that'll change the background color. Okay, if you don't want green, or gray, you can select something else, but I like a dark gray, so I'm going to go to document, click on back again after selecting a color, and that'll change the background. Mine has a slight gradient, which I do like. You can just change the range to 0 and it'll be 0. I'm going to go to preferences, eye colors, and these are all the colors. It's a lot of colors, right? These are all the colors in ZBrush. I'm going to click on that second circle or square again. I'm going to select a nice color, a color that I like. I like neon colors, so I'm going to select that, go back to preferences, and left click on all these orange boxes, okay? And that's just going to change the color just by left clicking. It selects the color that's in your color palette, okay? And that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to close these eye colors because that's too many to change. Go to config. I'm going to press store configuration. This is basically saying, like, when you start up ZBrush, it'll start up with that. Next, I'm going to go to save UI, and this will save the actual UI, the configuration, okay, as a configuration file. So next time, if you want to boot up on someone else's computer, ZBrush on someone else's computer, but have your UI, you can just import it using this, okay, or load UI using this. So over here, I want to go to enable configuration or enable customize under preferences, preferences config, enable customize. And I just want to alt control left click and drag these boxes down here just to make them easier to access. Okay, switch color is a good one. You don't have to drag these ones. I'm going to double click on that divider. Okay, click on this little icon here to get rid of it. If you do that by mistake, I just want to show you what happens. So I'm going to go to tool and click on that, and it'll automatically dock. Again, I go to brush, click on that little icon there, and it'll dock. These are all your recent brushes. This is where they'll be displayed. So if you use a brush, it'll be here. So we want these brushes. So I'm going to control alt, left click and drag all these brushes. So standard brush, clay buildup, a good one. Move. We haven't really used a standard brush, but that's more for softer work. We haven't really been dealing with that. So the move brush. The Z model is under BZM. That's something we're going to use a little later. The dam standard is something we want. Again, control alt, click and drag, left click and drag. Okay, these are all the ones we want. Mask pen, definitely. BM to get that. And you'll find it. Okay, click on the divider just to close that, give us more space. I'm going to alt, control, click and drag into the workspace. And this is going to delete these icons. I don't want them. I just want that little bit of space there. Okay, I like that. If you don't want it, don't do that. Preferences, store configuration again. So we start up ZBrush like this, and I'm just going to save it once more because this is a good start to something that we can use later on. So now you know how to customize your UI. So if you find something you like, you can put it in there under while you have enable configuration. I'm just going to save the project again, with Control S, not save as, over tool, okay. And now we're going to go to preferences and uncheck that enable configuration, okay. We don't enable customize, sorry. We don't want that on all the time, because if you press Alt, Control, and click, and just have a look on the top there, you see it says press any key to enable a shortcut. So mine says standard 2. That's because I've already enabled shortcuts for my buttons. So in other words, 0 or 1, 2, 3, all the way to 0. You can then replace it. So that's what I'm doing right here. I'm pressing a number, and I just press cancel, but you should press OK. And then the numbers 2 to 7 are the ones that you should be using. You can also save your hotkeys here if you want. And that's just how you give your keys or brushes hotkeys, okay? You press Control Alt, click on it, press a number, it says do you want to replace? Yes, and that's it. Now I've got standard 2, clay builder 5, move is for 3. Don't replace it with 1, okay? 1, 9, and 0 are numbers that you shouldn't use. You can use 2 to 7, those are good numbers. 1, I'll show you why later on. Here I'm going to click on material, and I'm going to select madcap gray. This is just going to change the material that I'm using. I like this one, it's a lot easier on the eyes. If you like what we were using before, by all means stick to that. And here finally we're going to use some sculpting on Anti-Venom. Just some very basic stuff. I'm going to click, hold shift, drag, let go of shift, and that's going to give me a nice straight line from point A to point B that I've dragged to, okay? So again, click, hold shift, drag, let go of shift, okay? It's a weird combination, but you'll get used to it eventually. That I'm holding shift just to smooth that out. These are just some very basic things. I'm going to select damn standard. I'm going to bring down that intensity just to show you that we can cut grooves into, it's probably too, there you go, a little bit more intense. We're going to cut grooves just to show you how this brush works. Now this is in a way, I want to use Control Shift, click and drag, and that's just going to isolate this, but I want to minus this, not isolate it. So I want to Control Shift Alt click and drag, and that's going to give you a red box, and that's going to move that out of the way. It's not deleting it, it's just moving it out of the way. So here I'm pressing the 1 button, the 1 key that you find on your keyboard, not the number on the numpad, just above where the exclamation mark is, okay? So I'm dragging, pressing 1, and that's going to give us just a repeated stroke, because if you draw something and you want to repeat it, drawing it again is a bit of a headache. So it's best to just press 1 and then drag, 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 or press 1, 1, 1, and then it'll do it over and over again. So here I'm just going to preferences, and I'm going to quick save, and I'm changing that number to 600, which is 600 minutes, because quick save can be a bit of a nuisance when you've got a massive file. When I say a massive file, I mean like 2 gigs. Right now it's in the kilobytes or megabytes, so it doesn't really matter. But that's how you change it. Here I'm just showing you just how janky your brush can be without lazy radius. So I just want to show you what lazy radius is. So let's say you've got a nice little pattern that you want to trace here, okay? You're doing it and you sort of kind of mess up there, okay? That can be very frustrating. Instead, what you can do is you can use lazy radius or lazy mouse, and we're going to go over here to stroke, lazy mouse, okay, it's under here, lazy mouse, shortcut L for lazy mouse, and it's on by default for some brushes, not all brushes, and you just drag that up. I'm going to drag it all the way up just to show you what it does. Okay, you drag, you see that little line, it follows that line. You see how smooth this is, okay? This is very smooth. It's an exaggeration, but I just want to show you how nice and smooth that is. I'm going to press L to switch it off, and you see how janky this is. I mean, I am over exaggerating, I'm doing it on purpose, but it is, yeah, not the best, okay? So I'm going to press L to activate lazy radius or lazy mouse, and I'm going to bring that down to about 30. Next, I'm going to left click and drag, and you see how nice and smooth this is. We can calculate what we're doing. We can take a break between strokes, okay? We can just do that. If you want to make it go deeper, you press 1 without moving the camera. Don't move the camera when you want to repeat a move, and then just shift smoothing. Okay, here we go. So just some very basic things to know about sculpting. I'm going to Control Shift and click out of there to bring that back. Okay, again, I'm going to click and drag this, and you can click and drag individual menus just to dock them. And I'm going to enable configuration. And once again, we're going to add lazy mouse because this is pretty useful. The shortcut is L, but there's no shortcut for changing the intensity, so that's good. Brush, I'm going to dock that, and we want select lasso, in other words BS, and here it is, sorry, BM for mask. And I want the mask lasso, but for the select lasso it's BS. And we're going to go over here, go to geometry, modify topology, again Alt, Control, click and drag. Okay, I'm just fast forwarding through all of this because it's something we've done before. Just very quickly through that, and then we're back to normal speed. So I just want to show you what these buttons do. We already know what lazy mouse does, but Shift, Control, and Alt. Just to hide that, I'm going to go down here to Modify Topology, Geometry, Modify Topology, and Delete Hidden. So mirror just mirrors it, right, from side to side, up and down, depending on if you click on those little X's, Y's, or Z's. Mirror and weld will mirror something from the right to the left and weld it together. That's important. It doesn't mirror from the left, only from the right. If you press on select lasso and hold Control and Shift, click and drag, it gives you something a little more controlled. And here for mask pen, if you hold down Control, you can draw a mask. Okay, you can actually paint it on, and that's what I'm doing. Okay, I'm just holding Control, changing the size, and then painting this on. So again, holding Control, clicking and dragging, left clicking and dragging, and then just painting this on. Okay, I'm going to show you why we're doing this in a second. Okay, just painting that on. Just getting something I like. I'm going to press Shift F and I'm press Control W, and whatever was masked gets a different polygroup. Okay, if you hold Control Shift and then click on it, it will isolate from the rest. You can mask by just clicking. Let me do it again. You can mask by just clicking out of there, Control clicking out of there, and then invert it by Control clicking away from the mesh. And you can just again do multiple things to this. You can mask it and move it out. You can move it in. You can extrude it. There's many things you can do with it. That's just some useful tips there. Okay, so here if you hold down Control and select the mask lasso, we hold down Control, we get a lasso. Okay. So I'm doing that, I'm pressing Control W to change it. You can't see it right now, but I'll show you in a second. I'm masking this, pressing Control W just to get different polygroups. Again, masking, pressing Control W. And finally I'm going to press Shift F, and you can actually see that each finger and point that we used, I'm going to press Control Shift click just to isolate that. Again, masking, Control W, masking, Control W. And now you can work on separate parts. There's no need for you to try and move around each part. You can just isolate it, work on it. Okay, so Hardsurface basics. Finally, something interesting. I'm gonna go straight ahead and go to Tool, Append. We're gonna append a cube. Okay, make sure you select it by pressing Alt clicking, right? You can switch visibility here if you want, or go into solo mode like we've been showing. I just want to show you this topology. I'm going to press Shift F, and this isn't something we want to work with. It really isn't. So I'm just showing you that. I'm going to go down here to initialize. You can initialize any shape. It doesn't have to be a cube. I'm going to press Q cube. It's going to give us a cube, but I want more sides, so I'm going to go 10, 10, and 10 again. It's going to give us 10 sides for each side, X, Y, and Z. Press Q cube again, and it's going to give us this really cool looking, well topologized cube. Okay. Next, I just want to get the scaling, so I just want to see how small it is. It's very small. So I'm going to press W to get our gizmo. It works like any gizmo in any 3D program. I'm going to press Control W, get it all into one, and we can press that square in the middle to scale up, left click, and if we hold Shift, we can increment it. So I'm just going to do that and then do it all the way to 5. You can see at the bottom there the number. I want it to 5. That's a good scale, I think. You can scale it left and right, X, Y, and Z axis. You can rotate, move, or everything. Again, rotate. If you hold Alt and click and drag, it'll just move the gizmo. It won't actually move the tool. You can move it independently. You can then click on the icon there. It'll bring it back to the middle of the object. And there's a ton of things here. Okay, if you click on the gear icon, you've got even more stuff. This is way too much. We're not going to go through that. Okay, so here we've got our cube, and time to get into the Z modeler. Okay, we've been talking about it. We haven't actually used it, so time to do that. Just click on it down here. BZ again to get that brush. And if you hover over the polygons, right, you can actually see this yellow line. This is if you hover over polygons. And the default one, if you right click on the polygon, is Q mesh and a single poly. And you can just extrude while left clicking and dragging. If you right click on the edge, you can insert, okay, an edge. That's the default configuration. And then you've got points, and I think the default one is move. So if you can just move the point. Not really something we're going to be using. We're going to be sticking to edges and polygons. So again, Q mesh. That's mainly what we're going to be using. So I'm going to go to Q mesh. I'm going to go to poly loop, okay, and then if you see that yellow line, that just points to where the loop is going. So that's all I'm doing, okay. So if you want the loop to go up, point it up, and then click and drag, left click and drag. And here I'm just tapping Alt while holding the left click down, okay. We're going to do that a few times, so just click and drag, while holding click, tap the Alt button. That'll give you a different poly group. That's something you want, okay. If you don't want that, okay, I'm just going to undo this quickly. If you just click and drag, okay, and you want the same color, just click and drag again, and you've got the same color, okay. I'm just tapping Alt, just to show that you can do that. This isn't too bad, we're just messing around here. Nothing too crazy going on. Okay, and again, I'm just clicking and dragging, nothing too complex. Again, making sure that that yellow line is pointing in the direction I want it to go, and then tapping Alt. This Alt tab is going to get complicated, so let's get into it. I'm going to hold Alt, okay, I'm going to left click down, I'm going to let go of Alt, and then just drag, okay. I'm not letting go of click, okay, I'm not letting go, and now I'm tapping Alt, still not letting go of click, tapping Alt, and finally I let go of click. It's going to get even more complicated. I'm going to hold Alt, left click, let go of Alt, tap Shift, and that'll give us the color that we were on, okay. Again, I'm going to do it, hold Alt, left click, hold it down, let go of Alt, tap Shift, and that's going to give us this maroon color again, okay. It's pretty complicated, but here I'm holding Alt, clicking and letting go of Alt, and then just tapping Alt, just to get that. Again, hold Alt, drag, and then tap. I know that was complicated, but if you watch it again, you'll understand it. It's something that we need to know how to do. Okay, again, I'm just right clicking and selecting polygroup all, then clicking and left clicking and dragging. Okay, and this is gonna just extrude a polygon out. Which polygon? Well, the color that we gave it. Okay, so it's only gonna do one color at a time because we set it that way. Now again, I'm just clicking and dragging, tapping Alt because I want a different polygroup color. And now I'm just gonna click, and that's gonna give us the same distance. So if you want the same distance and the same color, that's how you do that. I'm going to right click here, go to insert multiple edge loops, left click and drag up. That there's going to give us multiple edge loops, and I'm just going to click again to do the same thing on this side. Okay, here I'm just, I just want the normal mask. I'm going to go to mask pen, control, left click and drag, just to drag this piece out. And I want island. Okay, so polygroup Q mesh island. And if you just do that, it'll take the entire piece and then drag it out. And that's what I want. So I'm gonna drag it about here. That's not too bad. And then on the edge, I just want to insert a single loop, click and drag, and left click and drag, and that'll give us this. Okay, here I want to change the topology here, just the colors. So I'm gonna right click. I'm just gonna go to polygroup, and then polygroup, polyloop, okay, and then I'm just gonna click and then tap Alt, and then just click, 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 because I want the same colors. I'm gonna right click, Q mesh again, polygroup all, and I'm just gonna click and drag, just so I can minus it, and then tapping Alt again to get us a different polygroup. So here holding Alt, left clicking and dragging, and then tapping Alt while holding the left click, and then clicking and dragging. Well, you get the point by now, right? It's just the same. Here is scale, so we're going to scale polygroup all, and then I want it to be towards the center, right? So if we just do it, all the polygons will go towards the center. Okay, that's just how I want it. And again, we're going to use QMesh, and then drag this out. Okay, that was a lot to process. But if you just go there and watch it again, you'll get it. And speaking of alt clicking, I think we're going to alt click again. So just holding down Alt, and I'm just clicking. Holding down Alt, click, 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 still holding Alt, click. Okay, you get the point. And now I'm just right clicking on the polygon, choosing QMesh polygroup all, and I'm just dragging out. Okay, I'm going to do that again, but this I'm going to tap Alt to get a different color, and here we go. And once again, I'm going to scale that, and we should have the same settings, so I'm just going to scale it towards the center. And here we have, there it is, it's done. Okay, that's it. We're going to refine it a little bit more, because nothing is this sharp. You shouldn't have something this sharp ever, unless you really are making something in Minecraft, I guess. Then yeah, that's not too bad. But we're going to change that by pressing D. These are dynamic subdivisions. These are really cool to use, and they're non-destructive, and that's the most important part. If I were to press Control D now, Control D, Control D, Control D, we're getting subdivisions, but this is destructive. Okay, this is already applied. We can't really do anything to it unless we undo. So here I'm just showing you this isn't a Dynamesh, right? This is a subdivision, and you can see how smooth it is here and how janky it is here. That's because you're using subdivisions, you're not Dynameshing anything, and that's kind of the difference. So once you have the shape and you know this is what you're going to use, you're going to want to press D, not Control D, but D to get the dynamic subdivision. And if we go down here to Geometry and Dynamic Subdivisions, we can see that the dynamic button is clicked. Okay, that's just a shortcut, D. We can change the number to 4. That's going to make it smoother. Okay, but we want it to be sharper edge, so we're going to go to Crease, and I'm going to change that crease all the way down to maybe, let's see, 4. Okay, if the crease is the same number as the division, it's going to give you a very sharp crease. Okay, and the crease tolerance is basically like what angle we're looking for. If I put it down to 30, it's going to fix that little issue that we had there. But again, this is still too sharp, so what I'm going to do is change this to a 2, and you see how much that's better, right? It's not as good as we want. If you change it to a 3, even better. So if you have less than the number of subdivisions, that's what this is. It's just smoother. So the less you have in your subdivisions, the smoother it is. If you have a number of subdivisions or more, it's going to be very sharp. Okay. Here we just click on Apply, and that's applying what we just did. Nothing happened until we clicked Apply, because it's a non-destructive workflow. Okay. And we have 5 subdivisions. Okay. But here, I noticed that I messed up because I undid the scaling by mistake. So all I'm going to do here is just undo. You don't have to follow along. I'm just going to press Control Z, keep going until we have dynamic subdivisions. Then I'm going to scale that. Okay. And I'm also going to crease, because it messed up our creasing as well. So I'm just going to go to the edge. It's right there, highlighted in white. I'm going to right click, crease, and then edge loop complete, and then just crease this. It's going to crease the whole loop, and do it with each one. Okay, there's another way you can crease. You don't have to go to dynamic subdivisions. You can just do it manually via ZModel. That's also really useful if you just want to crease one point as opposed to an entire thing. So again, I'm going to hit Apply under dynamic subdivisions. It's going to give me 5 subdivisions, and unless I don't hit Apply, it's non-destructive, but now it's permanent. So this is what you get. This is very helpful, very useful for modeling, and this is kind of how you'll be modeling in general, very simplistically with hard surface modeling. And I'm just going to press W and just get myself orientated. You don't have to do this, but if you want to follow along, just hold Shift, click and drag, and again, it'll give you increments, okay? And then click and drag on the X-axis, and that'll give you increments. And then there I just reverted the gizmo to its normal state. Nothing fancy. And yeah, there we go. We've got ourselves a cool mallet. Okay, ZSpheres. Not as complicated as hard surface modeling. Okay, we're gonna go to Tools, Append, ZSphere, and Solo. Again, nowhere near as complicated. You're just gonna use Q, W, E, and R, and that's it, to draw, move, scale, and rotate respectively. So yeah, I'm gonna press X to get symmetry, and I'm gonna click and drag, and that's it. That's all you're gonna be doing. I'm gonna press W to go to move. Left click and drag again. You can move that. I'm going to press E, and just to show you what this does to scale. Okay, and then next I'm going to press X to get rid of symmetry, and then just so I can rotate. Okay, just to show you what that does. And that's it. That's as complex as you're going to get with ZSpheres, but you can do so much with the simplicity. It's really cool. So I'm going to go to texture, and I'm going to click on import. So don't mind what I'm doing now. I'm just trying to get the folder where my stuff, where the pictures are at. So I'm going to press import. I'm going to go to the folder where I keep the pictures. I'm going to select one of them. You can import multiple pictures, by the way. This is how you import pictures into ZBrush. I'm just going to click on this one and say add to spotlight. Okay, you don't have to do this. I just want to show you how it works. Click, add. You do want to add this guy though. Okay. And if we going to click on this tiling icon, and that's just going to give us, so if you have multiple pictures, that's how you sort them out. You can scale, okay, you can rotate. If you hold shift, you can rotate in increments, okay. You can, let's see, you can delete if you want to. You can flip horizontal in the program. Let me just click out of it, right click and drag, and we can flip horizontal, flip vertical, okay, a bunch of things. This is just an amazing tool. We're just going to right click and drag, and then press the delete button there. Okay, right click and drag, press the delete button just to delete it. It's not going to delete it from your system, just from the program. I'm going to press Shift Z, and then Shift Z again, just to bring this tool back. And that's how you use the spotlight. That's what this is called. I'm going to scale it up, right click and drag, and then just left click on opacity to bring the opacity way down. And we're just going to use this to trace, basically. So I'm just going to move this, and I'm just zooming out. I'm not scaling anything. I'm just zooming out. Okay, so once that picture is there, it's going to be there until we press Shift Z to move it out. Here I'm going to click and drag with the draw. Okay, click and drag. Actually, I'm going to press E to scale. So again, it's just clicking and dragging, and then using Q, W, E, and R. Q is to draw. So as long as you're adding more, I'm just pressing Q there, clicking and dragging. And that's it. That's all I'm doing. Pressing W to move, left clicking and dragging. Again, Q, W, Q again. Oh, actually, I'm pressing E, W to move. Okay, well, you get the point by now. Okay, very easy, very simple. You can do multiple things with this. And if you want to put one of these ZSpheres in between, so like you see there, let's say in between that torso, just click, left click with the draw option activated, and that'll just give you a ZSphere in between those tubes. Okay, so again, clicking and dragging with draw, pressing W to move. Nothing too complicated. This is far more simple and far more intuitive than hard surface modeling. It's very easy to get a shape. You can, here I'm doing a humanoid or a human. Well, actually I'm doing the template for Carnage, or Anti-Venom rather. But pretty human nonetheless. You can use multiple things. You can do it for animals, trees. It's great for trees, actually. Okay, and I'm going to zoom to the side, and obviously it messed up that. So what I'm going to do is go over here to see-through, and I'm just going to drag that slider and make it see-through. And this will make the program see-through, and you can see what's behind the program. So I already opened up a picture behind the program, and so when it's see-through, this is what you get. So that's just a picture that I already have opened up in my document viewer. And this is another way to go about doing this. So you don't have to import. You can just open one in your desktop and then make sure that it's behind ZBrush, and then open ZBrush. And there you have it. So I'm just doing it on the side. You can drag it in front. I'm just doing it because you can't see it too well. So just so you guys can see. And again, all I'm doing is pressing W and left clicking and dragging. And that's all I'm doing here. I'm just moving things into place because obviously we only had one way to view it. So now we're viewing the side. And yeah, that's basically it. So I was having a bit of trouble moving, so I just moved it way up and then moved it back again. Okay, I'm just moving it into place here. That doesn't look too bad. I'm just going to move this into place and then move the shoulders again, move that elbow. Just refining things. Again, these are spheres. You're not going to get too much of a refinement because remember, humans are more like cylinders as opposed to spheres, but that's not too bad. So it's a good base to start off from. Okay, and that, yeah, that doesn't look too bad. So if you press S or any of the context menus, you'll see that the see-through goes away. So yeah, I'm just going to go to see-through and put it to 0. And yeah, if you press Shift F, you can see what it looks like. Just gotta go to solo mode, and yeah, that doesn't look too bad. It looks like a Resident Evil character. Not too bad. Okay, so Shift F just to get this, and I'm going to go down here to Adaptive Skin. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to press Preview. Okay, that's going to give you this. If you don't get this, it's probably because your Dynamesh over here is too high. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you what you probably have. I think it's 200 by default. I'm going to click on Preview and click it again, and that's going to reset the preview. So what I want you to do is put the Dynamesh to 0, click Preview twice, and then say Make Adaptive Skin. That's going to give us the skin over here. Okay, it doesn't give us to here. This is a tool, right? There's a difference between tools and projects. This tool is in our project, but if we were to save this tool, it would just be this one thing that you see right here. Okay, it wouldn't save everything else that we did. If you save the project, it would save this and the tools that we just made before. So that's kind of the difference. Here, I'm just going to rename it. Press Rename. I'm going to call it skin_00. And I'm going to go here, and I'm going to click Append, and we can actually append that skin. And so here you can see I'm on another tool. Okay, I just clicked on it up there, and then just a little side note here because I can't find my if you press N for next, you can browse your tools this way. Okay, this is a lot easier. It's something I don't do very often, but you should get into the habit of doing it because it's far easier this way. Okay, as opposed to what I'm doing here. And now I finally found it. Okay, this is the skin that we added. Okay, so here we are finally at the final sculpt. I'm going to be doing a bunch of things here, using the brushes that we used, mainly just to sculpt the head, and that's about it. So let's get started here. We're going to go over to Delete Lower, and we're going to go over to Dynamesh. Click on the Dynamesh button. I'm going to press Control Shift so we can isolate this. And then I'm going to go to Delete Hidden, which is under Modify Topology, Delete Hidden. Okay, I'm going to snap this into place and then just smooth everything out with symmetry on. Over here, I'm going to grab the Move brush and then Alt, click and drag. That's just going to drag the topology out via Surface Normals. Surface Normals just means the way the polygon is facing is the way it's going to be dragged out. So if the polygon is facing you, it will drag towards you. If it's facing more towards the left, it'll drag more towards the left, so on and so forth. That's just what normals are. Well, a very simple explanation. So here, all I'm doing is, again, using the Move brush just to move everything into place. I'm grabbing the clay buildup now, bringing down that intensity, and just clicking and dragging, just to get some sort of jaw, and then smoothing. Now I'm Alt, left clicking and dragging, just to minus. Something we've done before, but now we're putting it into use with an actual sculpt of something useful. Okay, smoothing again. Alt clicking and dragging just to get a bit of that temporalis area in. Trying to get in those eye sockets with Alt click and drag. Smoothing that out. Getting in a bit of a nose. Smoothing that out again. And as you can see, the process is sculpt, smooth, so on and so forth. Well, that's just the way I work, and you will find that other people do that as well. Trying to get the cheekbones in and the muzzle. Let's get that occipital protuberance. It's the back of the head. And to sculpt something like this, you'll need to sculpt a lot of skulls or draw a lot of skulls, and that's kind of how I know where the landmarks are. That's why I don't need a reference. But if I were to further detail this, I would need a reference. So again, just further detailing. And as you can see, I created a base, I sculpt on that, and then I go over, and then I sculpt on that, and then I keep refining it. So here we're going to the back of the head, which is pretty much the widest part of your skull. And I'm just making sure that it's the widest part on our model. Here we're just going to the neck and adding just the neck muscles. Just the very basic muscles. Again, the neck muscles. Very, very basic. Shift F just to check the topology. I want to change it up because we want to detail it just a little bit more. So Control, click and drag away from the mesh and it will dynamesh. So again, we've got more polygons and we can add just a little bit more detail. And then that's how you work. You add more detail, you add more polygons, add more detail, add more polygons, so on and so forth. So here I'm adding just again on the temporal side, cheekbones. And like I said, you just refine and you just keep going over and over again. You don't start off with the most refinement. You start off simply with your base model, your base mesh, and you keep going. When once you have something you like, because going back from something that's very refined is never a good idea. This is good enough, so I'm going to press Control, click and drag, or even better, you can press Control and Alt, click and drag, and that will just give you that. And then I'm just going to drag this down and scale it to where I want it to be, and then I'm going to Control, click and drag twice, Control Alt, click and drag, just so that it highlights that area and masks everything else. That's just an easier way. So again, I'm just Control clicking and dragging, and here I'm smoothing. So as you can see, instead of using ZSpheres here, I'm using Dynamesh to create the body, and that's another way. Here with Mask Pen, I'm Control clicking and dragging, and just to create that, here I'm Alt clicking and dragging, and then just dragging the gizmo to move the mesh. And we just want to smooth that out so it's not too rough, so you don't actually see those polygons, just like you see at the back. And this is how you can create a very simple base mesh. I'm obviously just showing you the very simplistic part, and you can refine this even more. Again, I'm just showing the very simple part. But as you can see, the head, that doesn't look too bad. It could use a little bit more refinement. And eventually you'll end up with something like this. Okay, this is just the full version. This is what happens when you're sculpting, using all the brushes, using your anatomy knowledge. And this is the end of the tutorial, so happy sculpting, and I'll be making an Anti-Venom tutorial, a free version and a paid version. The free version will just be a sped up version on YouTube, and the paid version will be explained everything. Quite a few things I haven't taught you in this tutorial, but it should be enough to get you started. I'll see you in the next one.